Hi, I'm Johnny and this is my brother Matt, and today we're going to be showing you how to make a storage unit for a children's bedroom.
So recently my little boy upgraded from his nursery into a brand new bedroom, so we had to make somewhere that he could organise all of his clothes and toys.
Here's how we made it.
Okay, for this unit it was important that we had loads of storage, but we had a fairly limited space that we had to fit it into. We designed a bottom set of cupboards. We also had some very high level cubbies to put things out of reach of the little one. And we also had a clothes rail in the centre with kind of a nice countertop to have a little bit more of a space to display items.
When we are using the trap saw, we'd like to use a sort of a 2-inch bit of polystyrene underneath, just because then you can cut directly on top of your work table, but you don't actually damage the top at all.
We're going to use rebate joints for all of these, and we did this using the router. Now the easiest way we found to do this is to have 2 parallel bar clamps either side, and that way if you don't quite get it right on the first try, you can knock those clamps just slightly to one side and then you should get a really nice snug fit.
So you'll notice we're having to do this whole thing on its side because we do have quite a sort of a short workshop, so we can't actually, there's not enough room to turn it up on the side, so just turn your head to the side for now and you should be able to imagine what it looks like.
We had the nice guys at the home centre chop this plywood into 400mm strips. Now this was pretty approximate, so we just tidied one of these sides up on the table saw. At this point, this is filling up pretty much the whole of our workshop, so a little bit hard to navigate ourselves around it, but just gluing and screwing everything together, obviously using clamps to help us where we need to. So the next bit we had to do was this middle section between the 2 cupboards. Now this was a little bit tricky because the whole thing is laying on its side, because we wanted to put adjustable dowels on either side of the cupboard so that those shelves we can move to wherever we want them to be. The best way we found to do this is to make just a custom doweling jig for the projects you need. We used an offcut of melamine for this, and we just drilled holes every 2 inches all the way up that melamine using the pillar drill, and then we can bring that back over to the project and we can transfer those holes into each side.
We did use a little bit of blue tape just to make a flag to make sure we were drilling to the same depth every single time. So I wanted to make sure we weren't going to drill all the way through that sort of centre piece of plywood. So when we were measuring up the dowels the second time round, we just offset it by about 1 inch. That way all the dowels in the middle would be able to be sort of about 1 inch aside from each other. Party tunes today.
A little scrapwood block with a mark attached.
The mark attached.
Mark, I'm going to attach that mark. Clamp it on. We just clamped a scrapwood block to our work table, drew a little mark, and that way all of our dowels are going to be exactly the same length. Round the corners over with the sanding sponge, so it's nice and easy to get those in and out of those dowel holes.
So we wanted to have a way of actually securing this to the wall when it was in place. So all we used was an offcut of plywood that we had lying around and pocket holded this in place. And this way there was a back plate that would be able to screw straight into the wall.
To stop these shelves from sliding forward, we clamped a little bit of scrapwood on and then used a Forstner bit to kind of almost create this semicircular hole that would help locate onto those dowels.
We then thickness planed some pine we had lying around and then ripped it down on the table saw just into 3mm strips so we could use it as edge banding for the whole front face of the unit, just so it wouldn't hit that sort of end grain plywood showing.
Simple case of gluing and pinning these in place using the flush trim saw just to knock the ends off when you get there.
We then just took a sander over everything just to break all the edges.
So with the doors, we wanted to make sure that we had a slightly thicker edge band all the way around, so that when we came to use a router, to use a round over on the front of those doors, it wouldn't be cutting into those end grain layers of plywood.
So we did actually dowel these on as well, and then sort of realised afterwards that it wasn't completely vital, so you don't have to do that at all, but obviously you can if you want to.
Just use some Euro hinges on this project, super simple to install. You drill a couple of holes, secure them in place, you put the mating part of that onto the inside of the cupboard, and then what you actually get is a little adjustment screw, so that if you close the unit and it's not quite level or that gap is not perfect all the way down, you can actually just tweak that and adjust it until you're really happy with it.
So then it's just a case of painting the whole piece. So we did 2 layers of primer and 2 layers of satin white.
A little bit tricky to get this one upstairs, but we just about managed it.
Chuckle Brothers.
Now, part of the scrap plywood that came off of some of the cuts that we made, we turned into this riser block. Now, this riser block allows us to avoid having to cut a little notch out the back to fit around the skirting board at the bottom of the room. As well as that strip that we cut earlier to screw into, we wanted to secure the base of it as well. So we added a couple of pocket holes, and it actually secures very, very strongly.
So we wanted to have a nicer looking top to this piece, just to give a bit of visual contrast to all the white plywood we had going on. So we glued some pine together into one big board, shaped it, and then just glued it to the top. We also drove a few screws up underneath, just to make sure it's super secure.
So we used an oak stain on this one, just to darken the whole thing up a little bit. We realised that it probably would have been a hell of a lot easier to do this before we glued it on, but we live and learn. After we did that, we had a couple of coats of poly. Obviously this is going to be in a kid's bedroom, so we want to make sure that, you know, if he ends up drawing on it with a crayon, that we can wipe it off pretty easily.
So we just picked up a couple of the standard pine doorknobs from a local home store, and we gave this the same stain as we did from the top board and screwed them straight on.
So the last thing to attach was the clothes rail. Now we wanted to make sure that we had an easy way of doing this, so we just came up with these easy little blocks. Easy.
Were they easy?
No, they're not quite easy. And we made these small blocks just to hold them either side and screwed them into either side of the cabinet. So here you can see all the adjustable shelves in place. They work really well and they allow us to give us loads more storage. Those upper cubbies are going to be really handy for things that we don't necessarily want him to be able to access, but we want to keep in the room.
So it's really nice to have that top section as well, just so we can keep a few of his favourite toys on show and a few things sort of easier to hand.
We hope you like this one, guys. We put a lot of time into it, so it'd be great to hear your feedback and what you think about it. Leave a like, maybe a comment down below if you did.
So we have cranked up our sort of upload frequency now, so if you click that bell icon, you will be seeing a lot more of us, if you want to, of course. Thanks a lot for watching.
Cheers, guys.